Michael, how are you?
I'm so good, Corey. Thanks for having me today.
All right, thank you for being on here. All right, before we get started and before I ask you a bunch of questions, I want you to at least give me a minute or two on who you are and what you do.
Awesome. So I'm Mike Jaconi. I'm the founder and CEO of Button. We're a platform that is dedicated to taking the internet into a new era, a commerce-driven era, and we're building that through revolutionizing an old industry, affiliate marketing and influencer marketing, and turning it into a 21st century AI-powered channel that we are super dedicated and invested in trying to make the internet better. And as a result, all we try and do every day is make companies, creators, retailers, publishers, anybody that's investing in a business model that's fueled by commerce. What we're trying to build is software that can enable that to do better, perform better, have better insights, and yield, more outcomes, more value for the parties that play in this category. Because we think it's the future. We bet and built for almost 10 years in that vein and on that path. And I'm really excited because the company today builds a host of tools for folks to drive more commerce and more value. All started with deep linking technology, which really helped the app economy become a part of this old channel, this creator channel and this affiliate channel, and really took it into the 21st century with a lot of the deep linking capabilities we built for mobile. But now we're seeing the fastest growth we've ever seen in history, because as ads are under challenge and fire in a variety of different dimensions, all centered around privacy and efficacy, a lot of companies are turning to commerce-based models. And so Button is able to capture that, harness that, and deliver outsized value for small, minimal investments of time and resources to get up on our platform. So it's a really exciting time. We're seeing creators join our platform. We're seeing retailers join our platform. We're seeing publishers join our platform at a faster rate than ever before in history. So the company's on a really good track, and really excited to have this conversation today.
Yeah. And for you, our conversations I've always enjoyed because you are an original thinker. You do think differently about things. And can you just kind of talk this whole idea of deep linking? It is an aspect of the digital media business that's been around for many, many years. It's not the sexiest part of the business by any means, but I think that you guys are finding a way to think about it differently. So how did you come across that idea?
I think it's a great question. I believe that the affiliate industry is a category of marketing that everybody needs and wants, but frankly doesn't know how to grow. And that's what I see in the practitioners in the space, the best folks in the space. They can get a little more traffic, they can drive a little more value, but it's really hard to predictably grow that business. And as a result, you don't often find a ton of innovation in the category because there is no provable way to grow yet today. And the way that I think we're establishing a new growth vector is saying, hey, today you can do better just by enabling all the performant channels like your app to be a part of that program. Because if you do, guess what? Apps convert 3 times higher than websites. That's just a fact. And so if your creators are sending traffic to you, or if your publishers are sending traffic to you, or you're a marketer driving traffic inbound, if you're not sending that traffic into the app where your conversion rate is 3 times higher, you are not only missing on revenue opportunity, you're also providing the creators and publishers are having a bad experience, and so are their shoppers. And that is tough because it means the shopper's not having the best experience, they're not spending as much, the retailer isn't making as much money because they're not driving as many sales. The creator whose livelihood depends on this business is not working as well as it should because they're not sending the traffic where it should go. And for the publishers, unfortunately, publishers need every dollar they can get today.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing this in the right way, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And so we're showing growth in a category starving for it because we're giving a new channel access to this. We're giving a new form factor. We're giving mobile and apps a chance to play in this vibrant channel. And that's step one of growth. And there's a lot more exciting work being done for future growth, but that's probably for another episode.
Yeah. And deep linking, to my background, it was always something mostly focused in SEO. It was a traffic driver. And you're finding a way to really exploit this from an experience perspective to improve the experience for the customer, right?
Exactly. I think that the use cases, when we've raised money from our venture capitalists, a lot of times we'll sit there and be like, hey, you remember that time you clicked on the Uber button to go somewhere and the address didn't pre-fill? Or the one that was, I think, single-handedly helped us raise our Series A with Chris Moore and Redpoint was, remember when you click on the LinkedIn email and it didn't open the profile of the person you clicked on?
Mm-hmm.
Those were examples of deep links breaking poor user experiences. And in the marketing world, you got to think that people are clicking on links in Apple devices, Google devices, Android devices. They're clicking on links in Apple News, in Safari, and Chrome. And although every one of those clicks or taps would require a slightly different path or a slightly different link, you as a marketer can't change every link
Mm-hmm.
automatically. That's impossible. I can't create an Android link and an Apple link and that's impossible. And so if you want to give your users the best experience, you got to use a platform like Button to be able to do that. And the data speaks for itself. What's funny, and I'll tell you this just as a marketer, because you're someone we would call on to buy this type of thing. We have seen that by allowing companies to see the data from our product, see the software's output in their own data, and Button being blind to the data. So like, hey, use our links and then you tell us what you see. We
Mm-hmm.
have this capability to do holdout testing and incrementality testing and all these things, but we split the traffic and we have one parameter that's our test and one parameter that's our control. And then we say to the marketers, hey guys, how's it look? We don't see the data. It's just theirs. And what's so fascinating is that even though that was like frightening to me as a CEO, someone who's like, give me all the data, give me all the data. We've had 100% conversion rate on our software being adopted when we do that, because they know we aren't messing with the numbers.
Yeah.
They just trust. They're like, yeah, our system is showing 2 times as much value with Button versus half that value without it. And it's a really powerful thing to witness. And so we've been investing a lot there to make that easier.
Talk about that for a second, because I really want to ask you this question, which is you took a different approach to a sales process there. It's a risk. You were willing to take that risk, and it seems to continually pay off. So
Yeah.
how did you gain the confidence to be able to put yourself in the position to think differently about that process? Like, is that something that somebody else taught you? Did you just kind of come up with it on a whim? Like, what was the thing that gave you the confidence to go that different route?
It's a really good question. And it was funny. It was in lengthy discussions with my leadership team. And one of the resounding facts in our business, in Button's business, is that the companies that like us the most are
Mhm.
customers that bear hug us, that just love what we do and
Yeah.
take us, everywhere they can take us. Most of the time, there's one similarity between those businesses, and it is that they were looking at the performance of Button in their data, in their systems. It wasn't us and our partner success team saying like, hey, look how great we are. It was them looking in Adobe, looking in Omniture, looking in their own internal reporting and being like, wow, this is really performant. And so it was that epiphany internally that made us say, okay, well, if we're going to roll out these new products and we need an acceptance period to be
Mhm.
passed, and you have to cross that Rubicon to get to the big dollars, how do we do this in a way that takes that lesson from our current customers giving us the bear hug and apply it to this pipeline? And it's been remarkable. So that's the
Yeah.
lesson. That's how we learned it.
That's cool. Who taught you that? Who mentors you to think differently? Who do you look at and say, the way that they think, the original approaches that they take, that's the kind of stuff I want to do?
I think that the mentorship that I have in the arena of you know strategy and sales tactics comes from an advisory board I've built. So folks that are marketers representing the marketer I'm trying to sell
Mhm.
is one really helpful, advisor type that I would advise every founder to consider. In addition, our board is made up of some of the best investors in Silicon Valley, having had experiences running their own businesses, but also seeing the patterns of Mike Jaconi and entrepreneurs just like me and many far greater than me, and can coach me a ton on these things. So I think it's that, and then also just trying to hire people around you that are smarter and better, which is very easy for me to do. So I've been able to lean on that quite a bit too.
Yeah. And I know in our conversations too, this topic comes up relatively often, which is making sure that the team around you can live up to the standards that you would like them to do. In order to do that, you have to inspire them. So how do you take that concept of being able to think originally and think differently about your approach and make sure that that trickles down into the team? Like, is that something you look for when you're trying to hire, or is that something you try to do on an ongoing basis?
It's something we try to look for in every hire is one element of it. I think you also have to just how you forget this as a leader sometimes, and then you're reminded of it in times when things get hard or when things need to be corrected. And I think that the reality is that so much of what you are responsible for as a leader is setting the tone and setting the culture and setting the pace of play.
Mhm.
And so if you let your foot off the gas, that's going to trickle down pretty quickly. And if you're running as fast as possible and leading and living by example, I think that really has a big impact. And so I think, in my tenure and having gone through COVID like I did, I think there probably are times where I didn't do quite as well leading by example, either through burnout or fatigue and whatnot. And I will tell you, upon going through everything that we went through and I went through, I understand the importance of that now, and probably
Mhm.
am working the hardest and the fastest I've ever worked in my career now,
Mhm.
having not only recognized the importance of it for survival and success as a business, but also now really understanding how important that is to set the tone and example for the rest of the team.
Mhm.
And so I'm trying to say, and I live this and I believe this, the CEO I was to get us to this point is not nearly good enough to be the CEO I have to be to get us to the next one. And
Mhm.
so this next chapter, building a company that's profitable, that's growing at the rate we're going, I have to start really showcasing new skills and building new muscles, because that's going to be a wholly different experience than the one I've been through.
Mhm.
And I think that charter, giving that same call to arms to your team, is an exciting one too, because they have to be better versions of themselves tomorrow. And
Yeah.
that commitment, I think, culturally, to always improve. Something I learned from Hiroshi Mikitani, my former boss and mentor, from founder of Rakuten. You just always have to be trying to get better. And
Mhm.
if you have that growth mindset, which is a cultural value of Button, I think that's what sets you apart. Shield it.
Do you try to coach the other executives around you on your team though to take some of that and not be afraid of it?
I will tell you, I don't tell them to do what I do, because I think what I do is probably they're like, you're nuts. But what I will tell you that I have to do better is, like, sometimes when my emotions are not great, I express that.
Mhm.
And I notice as a leader that can have a profound effect and destabilize people, because they're like, hey man, I'm looking at you for the North Star confidence all the time. And I'm like, man, I guess every once in a while, when I let my guard down and say, like, I have a doubt or I have a problem or I have something, I gotta just measure that with or balance that with the impact it's gonna have downstream.
Cool. I
Curiosity and pace of play, I think those two things, if you put them together with a little bit of grit sprinkled in, you're gonna have a successful outcome.
Right on. Well, Mike, thanks for taking the time. I appreciated having you on
Of
here.
course. Corey, thank you. It's always a pleasure. And I look forward to coming back and telling you about more exciting stuff Button is building.
You got it.